Jeff Hafley.
Yeah.
I was impressed by Jeff Hafley.
He's from Jersey. Of course you are. He's
well,
from my
now
neck
that
of the
I know
woods.
that, I have to reassess.
You know it.
No, he was. You can tell, and I want to be careful how I say this. I like to think that after 60 years, if I sit down with someone for 10 to 15 minutes, I can tell whether they get it or not, and he gets it.
Yeah, I think so, too.
If that is relevant to anything.
No, I think that's a big part of it. Because
sometimes you sit down with somebody and you'll say, I'm not sure the guy
can lead a man.
There's a certain quality.
Yeah.
There's a certain, I don't know. It's
presence
intangible
about them.
But I was impressed with him.
Yeah, I get that.
Not to exclude anyone else, but I didn't know
he's
what
a
to
newbie
expect.
on this. He's a newbie.
I didn't know anything about him.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about him other than. And I'm impressed by the fact that he made that all-in bet, leaving Boston College to become the defensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers, and then 2 years later, the window opens to be a head coach.
Yeah, well, he's one of those real football guys. I know some common people from him back, in the days of Jersey. He's a little younger than me, but went to a high school that I played against, Pascack Hills there in North Jersey. So I do know a few people. Knew he was always ball. And the Boston College thing, you're right. That was one of the cooler things, and I think that's what you saw. Just a guy that was like, wait, I like college football and all that, but I just want to coach football. I don't want to.
That was exactly what he said. All this other stuff.
Right.
No, I don't want to do that.
Call mommy and daddy. Let me call a booster. Can we give this guy money so his mommy and daddy are like that? That drives. I know some of the old school coaches crazy, and I think he's got a little of that in him, and that's why he's in the NFL.
The other thing too that I picked up.
Yeah.
In his short time with the Packers, he and John Eric Sullivan realized they can be in complete alignment on everything, and that's critical to him. And he's seen the places he's been where there is alignment, where it works, like when he was in San Francisco with Kyle and John Lynch, and then in places where there is an alignment, and I don't think he said any in particular, but he and Sullivan have formed that partnership, and because I would put the Dolphins in the bucket of the dysfunctional franchises currently because of ownership.
Yeah, okay.
But I think Sullivan and Hafley saw an opportunity for both of them to get there.
I think it's
work together.
Yeah.
And see if this works where they compare notes all the time about, how did this game go? What about this player?
Yeah.
And it's not going to be a situation where the GM's going to acquire someone who gets buried at the bottom of the depth chart. They're going to have guys that are playing.
Yeah.
And they're going to make the right decisions, and they're going to be on the same page. And that's critical. That's critical because too many places they aren't.
Yeah, agreed there. And, Miami, too, I could see certainly being a little bit of a hot spot for a coach wanting to go to because there's not huge expectations down there, right? There's not that. Even though they've been good, they're not looked at as like, oh, we should go to the Super Bowl. The fan base isn't quite as aggressive that way. So I do think coaches in the league look at it and go, oh, you'll have some time there a little bit to make it work. And you do have an owner, and I know you bring up the dysfunction thing, but you do have an owner that's at least showed he's willing to pay money. And I think that is always going to make any
too much money to the quarterback.
Well, that's why I used to say star, I used to use the word star efforts all the time, right? Because they were too willing to do that. Yeah. They'll, I think, be a little wiser with how they spend that money and spread it out to make a better football team. And then instead of just going, hey, we got 4 or 5 stars, that's really it, and we can't fill in a lot of the other holes.
They're definitely aligned on the talking points for Tua Tagovailoa. Everything's on the table, including the possibility of a trade. Right. I just don't think they're going to be able to work something out.
Well, who's going to trade for Tua with that? They would have to pay an enormous amount of their contract.
The Dolphins are going to have to pay some, and they may have to attach. They may have to do a Brock Osweiler trade.
Right.
To unload cash and cap space and send, just like the Texans did with the Brock Osweiler contract 9 years ago.
Right.
Send a second-round pick and his contract, so the Browns are buying a second-round pick for $17 million. That's, I think, would be one of the key requirements if a trade is going to be done. The other thing, too, I asked him about toughness.
Right.
And the lack of toughness, because it was a Dolphins game at the Packers Thanksgiving night 2024 when Jordan Brooks said afterward we were soft.
Right.
So that kind of pressed a nerve. Not that he got upset with me, but it's like he's got a plan.
He's got to get that out, right?
He wants to find out. Because I said, well, how do you know that a guy's going to be tough when it's 0 degrees? And he said, because the same thing is going to make him crack when it's 100 degrees. It's going to make him crack when it's 0.
Yeah.
And we just want to find out which guys are going to crack under what circumstances, and those aren't guys we want on our team.
Yeah, so. I think they'll find that. What's up, big guy? How are you? Doing all right? Good to see you.
There he is.
Say hi.
Charles Davis.
Charles Davis, my buddy.
What's up, man? How are
I see him every year. Right. So the only time of the year I see him is right here, so I had to say hi real quick. What's up, man? Yeah, I'll come over and say hi later.
All right, Charles. That's Charles Davis.
But but yeah, within that too, they were down that road a little bit with Brian Flores. but I think it was like, whoa, this is too tough. This is too volatile.
Well, because they had their own quarterback,
and there was a lot of things.
Exactly
right.
Flores.
Now, the quarterback thing in Miami is interesting, and I think in the perfect world, you don't want him there. But at the same time, too, if you bring in a big-time quarterback, right, I don't think Tua is necessarily the guy that's going to threaten that guy, right? Nobody's going to be next to Tua during warm-ups being like, oh, gosh, well, he's making me look bad, right? So it's a different dynamic.
But why do you want him?
But why do you want him? That's
it's
what I
not
was
good
getting
for
to.
anybody.
Exactly right. It's just going to cause a cloud, and if that quarterback plays shaky in 1 or 2 games, people are going to be like, well, Tua could do that, put him back in. So that's the big reason.
You do have that hive, and I think it has
it's
shrunken.
Yes.
But you do have that hive of the old Tua and on. But they have.
You mean they hit reality is what they did.
Yeah.
Yes,
you can only take so much of it before you finally say, you know what?
Yeah.
All those people are right.
Yeah, right. Chris Simms is right. Screw you, Tuanon. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm here.
There are some parallels we could draw as it relates to hoping that people finally realize that, But never mind. We'll stick to sports. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.